He's like really tall. He's like kinda. Hello, my name is Daniela, and welcome back to my channel. The mic is on 100%. I hope this is very clear, very crystal clear. I hope you don't hear anything in the background because I literally bought this mic so no one could hear what goes on outside of that door. I literally just want you to hear my voice and only my voice. But I also don't want my voice to be extremely in my own ears. Basically, I'm starting this new series on this channel specifically because I was like, I love watching video essays so much, so why don't I make video essays on books that I've read? I only make wrap-up videos, and I've made one vlog. I just freaking wanna add more to this channel because my vlog channel gets more love. This series is basically just gonna be summaries of the books I've read, and hopefully you all enjoy it so very much because I've been typing. I haven't even finished a book for me to type out the entire thing, but I've written 10 pages worth of the first 19 chapters of Throne of Glass, so we're gonna start that today. Now, I've been reading this book, Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and this isn't the first book that I've read of Sarah J. Maas. I've read the entire ACOTAR series, not in a way that I should have, because sometimes when I start series I kind of slack off and then I only focus on the first book and then the last book, which is exactly what happened. A Court of Thorns and Roses was the best, and then the 4 books in between that one and A Court of Wings and Ruin, they were mid, but then A Court of Wings and Ruin, the book where Farah's oldest sister, because I think Farah's the youngest, her oldest sister, what's her name? Her name's Nesta. Her and Cassian, I think, that when they were that's their book. So those two are the best, but I'm gonna turn on my LED lights and it's gonna look so aesthetic. So the main character, her name is Selena Sardiotheon or something. Selena starts off by being dragged with chains in her hands, and she meets the captain of the guard. His name is Cale Westfall, right? He's really tall. He's kinda I don't know. It's literally tall, mysterious guys who are so muscular. That's literally, honestly, I don't know if anyone else is like that, but whatever. So he's tall, and I'm saying that he's handsome because he just gives the vibes, you know? But anyway, she's an assassin, right? And they capture her, and then she meets the prince of Adelarn. So that's the first chapter, right? And then Selena literally had no freaking manners, so a duke literally shoves her to the ground and is this is how you respect the royalty. And then the prince was I get that you respect my family, but she doesn't, so I don't need you to do that for me, you know? And he's that was unnecessary. After that, the prince just explains that there's gonna be this competition or something for a champion, and that he wants to sponsor Selena. And the prince's name is Dorian, by the way. The picture of Dorian Grant. I was oh my gosh. I was the prince must be handsome if his name is Dorian. He probably is anyway, because this is a fantasy book. And normally, when people are considered ugly, they're normally not mentioned as much. He's basically sponsoring her for this competition that the king is holding. And if she wins, after 5 years or something, she gets freedom. And so she takes the deal or whatever. So then they journey to the castle, right? And she came from this place called Endovier or something, right? And that was it was hell for her or something. So then the prince traveled there, and now they're traveling back to the castle. And while they were journeying, Selena and Cale were walking beside each other, right? And Selena's literally the part where they were talking or whatever. Selena's the sunshine, and then Cale is the freaking grumpy ass. And it was the grumpy sunshine thing, because Selena was asking so many questions, and Cale was just yes, no, shut up, you know? He didn't answer a lot of his questions. There was this one part where it was also still in the journey, where Prince Dorian wakes Selena up and was come see the view, right? And it was you should see the view. And then he's watching her look at the stars, and there's this line that was something about the girl who stared up at the sky and the stars stared back. And I was just like, why can't that be me? You know, and the fact that Dorian made this type of thing, you know, like the perspective was on him. In the book, it's not just Selena's point of view, it switches to different characters. Then they go to the castle, and Selena's maid is like really soft, I guess. Well, that's that's what the description said. And it's only her, Kale, and Dorian, and I think like the king, who knows who Selena really is, that she's really an assassin. So her maid was like, no one else can know about this, right? And there's this whole thing about her identity, her real identity having to be kept a secret. And it makes sense because she's a wanted assassin, you know? Then there's this part where they meet the other champions. Contestants, mostly, because there's can only be like one champion, I think. So I'll say contestants. So there's this guy named Kane, right? Who everyone thinks is real competition, as in like they have to be worried about that guy because he's most likely going to win, right? And Kane, like Selena does not like him. Like from where I'm reading it right now, she does not like him at all. She thinks that he's just too much. But to be honest, he's kind of like the girl version of her if she didn't hide her identity, I guess. Then Kale and Selena go to a library. Like it's this huge Beauty and the Beast type library, and then they both talk about how they both love books, and I was just like, oh my gosh, why can't I be happy? Why can't I have a guy that I can discuss books with? Like I literally discuss books with literally myself. And then I remember that this was a fictional book, and that, you know, sometimes this is the better form of escapism, but whatever. So they talk about how much they love books, right? And then Selena finds out that she needs permission from the king or the prince to actually access the books, or else she's like stealing or whatever. So she writes to the prince in like a really sassy letter. She's like, I know I'm just a peasant, but if your Royal Highness has the time to allow me to give access to these books that you yourself and your father only have access to, I would be so happy. And I was literally worded like that. And I actually had a hard time reading it because it was in cursive. It was written in cursive, and I was like, you know, I know how to read in cursive. I also write in cursive sometimes when I'm feeling a little snazzy. So then he writes back, the maid brings back his note, and with like 7 other books, and then the note says oh, this makes me so sad because I want those. He's like, I really liked these books and I hope you'll like them too, so please read these books out of my recommendation before you read any of the other books, because this library is like massive, right? Literally my dream collection, you know? And then he's like, just read these books before you read others from my collection. And I was like the next day, she spends her whole night reading, you know, she gets a little late too. So Kale and Selena meet the king, and Kale is relieved that throughout the entire meeting that she was able to shut the freak up, you know, because she like literally never does. It's different for the king because he's like the highest authority figure, right? And he's also like leading this competition or whatever, right? Kale was like, don't make eye contact with him, make sure your eyes are pointed at the floor, bow very low. And when they were bowing, Kale had his hand on Selena's back, probably just to guide her, or probably to just like help her in some way. But I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even like physical touch that much, but I was just like, that is so cute. After the meeting, they meet up with the prince, because the prince is literally just leaning on the wall like every other character does, and he's like, you can't tell anyone about who you really are, so your name is Lillian, you were a jewel thief from this place and you're here now. That's literally what I remember, but I know that she has like a merchant as a father as well, which made me think of Farah from Akatar. So I guess that's a recurring theme in her books, but I don't know, maybe it's just like random, just like everything else in fantasy. Then they meet this person called Kaltane, I think. I don't know, she's really kind of a B word, you know. She's not a princess, but her dad's like as rich as the king, I think, unless I have the description of the wrong person. But like literally the vibe is just like done out of the door when she comes up. Then this Kane guy gets on Selena's I literally did not even pay attention to him. I have his name spelled wrong on my script. It's spelled with a K, but I wrote it with a C. I was just typing up stuff really quickly without even giving a second thought. I have so many spelling mistakes here anyway, but that's besides the point. I guess I'm just such a hard worker. Kane gets on Selena's nerves and Kale has to basically break them up. So then Selena and Kale like talk privately, and Kale's like, you don't need my help to fight your battles. You can do it yourself. Even though he literally just broke up one of the fights. And then Kale and Selena spar together, which is like such an iconic thing for fantasy royalty type of characters to do. And it's like so attractive because like even though you guys are like pretending to like duel or whatever, there's like something about it is like so intimate or something, I guess. I don't know, unless you like end up killing your partner in some way. Kale and Selena were sparring and he was like, I know you don't know me well, but I don't lose. And he basically just stabs her in the heart. And then after they were joking around and he was like, hey, at least I don't have a dagger in my heart. And I was like, this is actually so funny. In the next chapter, Kale reminds Selena that no one's supposed to know who she is, because when she sees like the other contestants, he's like, don't even like talk, don't say anything to them. They can't know who you really are, you know? Then he was like, when you win, you're gonna get all the glory, and because you're hiding your identity, the other contestants, I think the other contestants are also all men, but I don't know if I remember a specific detail. I was like, you were the only woman in this competition. I don't remember a thing about that, but I'm assuming that they are all men. He's like, no one's gonna assume that they need to think that you're competition, right? And he's like, people like Kane, they should be thinking that he's the real competition. And I was like, this is actually a really good strategy, but Selena is obviously like off the rails when she hears about this, because she doesn't care about delayed gratification. I love delayed gratification. I literally test myself so many times, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, was it really worth it for me to wait for that? But sometimes I'm like, YOLO, you know, delayed gratification, it's like much better than like instant dopamine releases, I guess. I'm getting a little political, so we're gonna move on. When she wins, she's gonna enjoy all the glory, and it's gonna be worth it if she has her identity right. And then they go on this run. When I was reading this, I was like, oh my gosh, so relatable, because she was running for so long. And after, Selena lies that she lost something in the river, right? But then guess what happens? She literally goes, ugh! She literally vomits into the river when she's trying to find her missing jewelry or something. Then after, she sees Kale. He was literally watching her vomit. And I was like, you didn't even help her? But then, I mean, that's understandable. You see a wanted assassin vomiting after going on a run. It says a lot, I guess. I don't know if he was concerned about it, you know? But like, then they eat, and then Kale joins her, and he finds out that she doesn't like fish. So he eats salmon in front of her, which I thought was kind of funny. And then they talk about books. Like, oh my god, there's so many readers in this book, in this freaking book, you know? It's so relatable. They talk about books, and Kale names a few books. I'm assuming there were some 5-star reads. But she was like, oh, I know those books. And then Kale was like, I don't have a lot of time to read books, but that doesn't mean that I can enjoy them any less than you and the prince. Obviously, the prince and freaking Selena have a lot of time on their hands. And then, I think I missed this before. I was reviewing over like the last chapters. But Kale comes into Selena's room, and guess what she's doing on her bed frame? She's literally doing pull-ups. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to be like her. Literally girl boss energy. And then they meet Princess Anemia? Okay, I'm just gonna say she's the princess, because spoilers, apparently there's no princesses left, so I'll just call her the princess. Just know that she's not related to Dorian. She's just coming to visit, to like learn the customs and like the language and that stuff. So like right away, her and Selena are like besties. Like they clicked immediately. They also meet Caltane, which from before, as I said, when she entered the room, the vibe was off. It's out the door when she came in. Selena tells Coltain to go away because she was being disrespectful to the princess. She literally like corrected her. You don't normally do that, you know, unless you have something going on up in that noggin. The princess wants to go home, right? Which I thought was very funny. Later, Selena remembers her past mistakes on like trusting women, and she was basically like, never trust girls who have powers of their own. And then she was like, after being a princess, was I wrong? It was like, maybe this is your first ever female friend, you know? Then Kale joins her while she's eating again. Like, they're always eating together. Like, why don't they just go on a date? Why don't they just, you know? Kale joins her while she's eating, and she's like, did the princess manage to rizz you up? That's basically what she said. He was like, I have a type. I don't like arrogant assassins. And I was like, when did the assassin part come in? We were talking about the princess. And then she was like, would you like me if I wasn't an assassin? And he was like, no. I don't believe him. As I said before, this book jumps perspectives. So he said that like he wasn't able to sleep ever since they kidnapped the assassin. LOL. And then it's like he's extremely curious about her as well. So I was like, so it's a reciprocated feeling that they're both curious about each other. Unless Selena was just asking those questions out of pure boredom, which I would do as well if I was kidnapped, taken to another city to win a competition to win my freedom, but I have to wait 5 freaking years. I would also annoy the captain of the guard. Okay, that was the summary of chapter 1 to 13. I think that took a while, but now we're on to chapter 14. From here on, every single chapter has a couple paragraphs in, but I'm gonna have so much fun revising over it. Selena is going through her training, right? And Kale always eats lunch with her, and she still hates Kane. And then she meets this guy named Knox Owen. He's like another one of the contestants, but he doesn't have a stick up his ass like all the other guys, right? And then they find out that they found out that another contestant died. And it was like really bad. It was described that his body was like ribbons. Yeah, and imagine all the blood on that too. Like, I was like, that's actually really descriptive. Maybe I should use that. And then some of the men made uncomfortable remarks about Selena, and Knox was like, ignore them. And that kind of gave me like a Kenji from Shatter Me, Unravel Me, Kenji kind of feeling. He's gonna be the guy best friend. And if you didn't know, on the back of this book, it says, 2 men love her. I'm going to talk about that a bit later because I have some notes written for that. We're going to just discuss this right now. So then they start throwing daggers, and Selena basically teaches Knox how to do them properly because he's clumsy. He's a clumsy, goofy guy. Selena's the best, so she's going to show him how it's done. Then, time skip. Yeah, Kale's like, did you do anything else other than read? That made me smile so hard. I don't know why. Like, every time they talk about reading books and that stuff, I'm like, oh my god, I'm there. That's basically me. I was like I'm not that delusional, but like, what if Kale was asking her that so that he could concoct some. Oh my god. Okay, I think I fixed the setting. Maybe you can't hear anything now because I literally have the microphone on full blast. So hopefully now that you can only hear my voice, everything is gonna be a little bit more intimate. I hope that's okay with you. It's not okay with me, by the way. I read chapter 14 to 19 today. I will eventually read the rest of it sometime. So going back on Kale asking her if she did anything else but read, and I'm honestly not that delusional, but like, what if Kale was asking her that so that he could concoct some type of plan to steal that attention that she gives to books onto him? Or maybe he just wants to like freaking talk to her more. I don't know. So then Selena finds out that he's been friends with the prince since they were children. And so Kale runs away and he gives his little brother his title, and he becomes the apprentice of the captain of the guard before him. And then Kale asks Selena about her past. And I know pasts are normally like pretty touchy subjects with like literally anyone, but Selena was like, she completely like turned cold. And she was basically like, I'm an orphan. I've been one since I was 8 years old. I became an assassin, and then I went to Endovier. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but I'm trying my best. I did not search up pronunciations before this. I should have. I'll do that for like the next one. And then he asks about why she has a scar on her right hand, and she was like, this guy named Arobin Hamel basically said that she wasn't ambidextrous enough to be a swordsman, so if she didn't fix that, then he would fix it himself. So she basically breaks her right hand with a door, and she broke like 2 bones or something. So while her right hand healed, she only used her left hand, which is kind of odd. But if she was that devoted to being a really good assassin, then I guess that's normal, I guess. And then after this trauma dump, Kale stands up and he leaves. Okay, I swear this couple, I'm assuming they're a couple, but I searched up on Pinterest, Thorn of Glass. I searched up Kale because I wanted to see if he was actually attractive. I thought he had long hair. Like, guys with long hair just hit different compared to the fan art hair that he had. I saw this one pic of Kale and Selena, and I was like, oh, they're a couple in the book. I'm sure that they're not going to last, because every fantasy reader knows that the peasant, well, not the pet, but like the poor boy, the poor love interest, like in financial situation, or the guard, does not get the girl. I actually meant that the first love interest that is introduced is not the person that the main character ends up with at the end. And it honestly shows up in every book with love triangles, like Farah, Raishin, and Tamlin in A Court of Thorns and Roses, Juliet, Aaron, and Adam in Shatter Me, America, Maxon, and Aspen in The Selection, Jude, Carden, and Loke in the Folk of Air series. And you could also say for The Hunger Games with Katniss, Gale, and Peeta, because, it was a love triangle, right? And Gale was the first male interest introduced. So, I'm just saying that there's a pattern. Literally, in The Cruel Prince, when Jude is entangled with Locke, even though it was like a trap, she ends up with Prince Carden, which I know that he's like the only true love interest for her, because the book is literally called The Cruel Prince, and Carden is the cruel prince, and Jude is the main character. Like, still. And then even in ACOTAR, Tamlin is like an authority figure. He's literally the High Lord of the Spring Court, right? But Brysand is like a freaking king or something. Like, his dad was a really respected man, not respectable. I do respect Raishan's dad for like saving his mom, I guess, but Tamlin was nothing compared to Raishan in terms of their rank and their powers. And even in this book, I can tell that Selena and Kale are not going to get married and have a happy ending. I really hope I'm contradicting myself. Not contradicting. I really hope that I'm wrong, merely because they have a lot more. I'm like so scared if someone comes into this room and they're like, what are you doing? Because like no one understands me and that stuff. Yeah, that was the ending of chapter 14. Continuing on, we are at chapter 15. Yes! So this is Selena's first test in this competition, right? And it's like pretty freaking simple. It's like they literally took it out of... Sarah J. Maas literally took this out of Brave. Because you know that one... You know when they're trying to find like a freaking husband for Merida, and they have to shoot an arrow at a target, and you know how there was like 3 different guys, and the one that who's like completely clueless, he literally gets it, right? And then Merida comes, and then she hits the bullseye on everyone, and then on the last one, she literally severs it. This is actually nothing like it. They have 5 shots, and they have to hit the targets perfectly every time. And the person who has, like, the worst aim is eliminated. And then right before the thing, Kayla's like, don't show off. And then she's like, I'll try not to. Literally same. So at this point, my girl is literally talking and observing Kane a little too much. She's like, oh, look at that guy. Oh. And now I'm thinking that Kane is part of the love triangle, not Dorian. Maybe Knox and Dorian are the two best friends, and Kane and Kale are the love interests. Hopefully not. Hopefully Kane is the antagonist or something, not the love interest, because I have not heard many good things from that guy. But he literally does not get any screen time, I guess. Is that what you call it for books? Because I know that's what you call for movies and for like music videos, but there's this line that goes, she tried to swallow, but her mouth was dry. Saying that out loud is kind of odd. So at first I was like, writers do everything to make meaning into a boring ass sentence. And then I realized that I have actually swallowed and my mouth was completely dry. But you have to just go through a lot of self-disrespect and an intense cardio workout session to do something like that. Because not drinking water before a workout, like not like an entire water bottle, but maybe like a couple sips, but like stay safe out there, stay hydrated. That sentence is nothing like, you know, in the 50 Shades of Grey trilogy, there's like this line that's always repeating and repeating. It's like, after he left, I let go of a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. That line is engraved in my mind because of how many times I cringe every time I read it in any book. Like literally, just say you exhaled. Just say you sighed. So she does her test right, and all of her shots are perfect, right? And she's kind of upset though. She's like, I haven't won anything. I don't feel the gratification of this. So I was like, girl. I also have a protein shake. I'm also eating a vitamin D kids gummy. Chapter 16, sorry. Kale and Selena. Literally every single time a chapter starts, these two are together. Every single time. So they go on a run, and Selena, she knows she's aware that she's out of shape, but she throws up again in front of Kale. Again. So if this guy still does not feel utterly disgusted by the fact that she does the same type of cardio and then throws everything she ate the morning, like she throws up everything she ate in the morning, he must have like seen something worse. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot handle people discarding any matter from their bodies, especially vomit. Because for one thing, it just looks so uncanny for it to be coming out of your mouth when you eat. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like kind of odd. It's like, please don't, I'm out the door if I see you even gagging because of something. I don't know. And that's like really funny because if you knew me when I was younger, story time by the way, I was the child who always got car sick. I remember one time I was in my dad's car, right, and we were pulling up to our house, and I was with my sister at the time as well, and this is when my dad had these kind of like car refreshers, and it was like the worst possible smell, and he also wore this type of cologne. It wasn't Axe, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't good either, you know. So the combination of the air refreshers and his cologne, it always made me puke. And that day while we were pulling up, I puked. I was a child back then, and I was in like a car seat, so I didn't think to bend over while the vomit was coming, while it was ascending in my throat. I did not think to bend over and grab my dad's garbage can. I brought my hands up to my face, and I was wearing these hot pink gloves, and I puked in my hands, and my hands were tiny back then, so the vomit that I did, it literally filled the brim. Like, it was that bad. The gloves were covered in vomit, and I don't remember what happened after that, but it was such a vivid memory, and I was just like, the entire time. I was using an excuse because it's actually happened multiple times with his cologne and those air refreshers. There was one time, actually, I'm not going to discuss any more of those because it's actually kind of gross. That's the only car sick story that I'm going to share today. So, Kale watches her while she's vomiting again, and he's like, are you done? He's so funny sometimes. He's making me giggle. And then Selena's like, next time I'll barf all over you. So then the topic of her scars on her body are revealed. If that sentence felt uncomfortable for you, feel free to skip ahead, because as we unravel the characters' pasts, there may be some things that not everyone is comfortable with, so I just want you guys to know that there is some mention of physical torture. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but that's what happened. So as we unravel Selena's past, there's like a lot of trauma to unpack, and she doesn't really like talking about it, as we've discovered before. When Kale asks her about where she came from, she said like 4 words and then called it a day. And I don't blame her, because even though she's like one of the best assassins out there, or maybe she's like the best. She does have a reason why she's the best. Like, she's not the best because she's like the most happiest person. Like, obviously that's not true. So on her first day of Endovier, she says that she was whipped 20 times like an animal, and she didn't even know if she was going to be alive the next day, right? But luckily, a woman was kind enough to help her mend her wounds, you know. There's another trigger warning for this, so if you don't like talking about sensitive topics like sexual assault and murder, you can also skip ahead as well. Her act of kindness would eventually lead her to getting raped and murdered. Then Selena snaps and she avenges her death and kills everyone who harmed her. And she tells Kale that everyone was afraid of her when she snapped. And then Kale had this soft look that Selena could not comprehend. So Selena and Kale, their relationship was kind of up and down because when they're together, they're like always asking each other questions. But when the interrogator, I guess, that's actually a funny word. I have a story about that. Okay, there's this, you know what? I'm actually not going to talk about it because the questioner is always asking questions. The person who's supposed to answer literally never answers the questions. That's that. And then maybe because the questions are sometimes a bit too personal, but when Selena's away from Kale, she's always like, I hate him so much, but he's like kind of good. Probably like good at sparring, because that's one that I can quote from that, but that's the vibe that I picked up so far. So later, the champions gather around yet another dead body. It was another contestant, and Knox says how his sponsor, like his own sponsor, was like, if you enter this competition, you won't go to prison. But I'm assuming that the dead contestant wanted to escape. So then there's just this whole paragraph that was like, did this contestant want to escape because he knew that he wasn't going to win, or why did he try to escape? Stuff like that. And I can't say that Selena's saying all this because this book is literally written in third person. No hate against third person, but first person just makes the entire book so mysterious because all you know is what the main character knows. Like, there's that type of gray area kind of stuff, you know, and like, you know nothing except for what the protagonist decides to tell you. Chapter 17. In this chapter, we follow Dorian. As I said before, this book switches perspectives many times. So he's talking with his mother about his future, and he's just like in his throne. He's like slacking. He's like so freaking bored. And his mom was like, I'm gonna die soon. You need to get a wife. Which is so typical. Like, he's literally 19, and his mom's just like, where's your wife? And then she's talking about Princess Nemia, which if you don't remember, she became like friends with Selena right away. And then she's the queen, Dorian's mom, is also like, I won't force you to marry, which I know is BS because she literally hands him a piece of paper after, and she's like, this is a list of suitable young ladies because they are fantastic at producing children. I was like, oh my god. She's also like telling Dorian about how love doesn't make a successful marriage, and I honestly share the same ideas with her because I am against the whole thing about marriage, you know, in the terms of why it's like so complicated. Because when you, from my humble opinion, what I know is that like when you get married with someone, like, all of your financial stuff gets linked with that person. Your spouse is literally your other half in the financial world. Like, if you die, all like and you have debt, all of your debt goes to your partner. But it's like much, but for like, I think that happens to like everyone. If you die and you had no spouse, it goes to your like family members or whatever. So that's kind of like unavoidable. But like, even like divorce takes a really long time. Like, doesn't it have to be like verified or something? I don't know. But like, it takes like, what I know is that it takes a while. It doesn't just take a signature on a piece of paper. Cause like, so yeah, I am also against romantical love, you know, but maybe that's just because I've been in love with the idea of love for so many years that I just can't fathom the actual sensation or like feeling of being romantically attracted to someone who's romantically attracted to you as well. Like, I'm against all of the being attached to another person and how the feeling's indescribable. Like, this is not a whole new world. This is not indescribable feeling, soaring, tumbling, and then okay. No. Okay, I hope you all know that I am a 15-year-old girl and I will eventually make mistakes and learn from my lessons and have a new worldview in like a year or like half a year. So please don't attack me for what I'm saying right now, because I do not trust anyone as much. I do not trust another person enough for me to get into any sort of relation. And I'm also like not allowed. Said by my mom and my dad. I don't really care for that right now, so it's like a win-win for everyone. So then his mommy leaves and he sees Selena, but the way that it was typed out, like her introduction into the chapter, was so odd. It was like those romantic poems that are like, under the moon, I feel like none. When I open my eyes, there you are. I run. Like, I wrote that, by the way. So yeah, I wasn't born under a rhyming planet, as Senior Benedict said in What to Do About Nothing by William Shakespeare. Like, I'm such a William Shakespeare girly. I had like this poetry phase, but I was like, this is not my thing. Like, I wrote poems, and I was like on rhymingwords.com because I couldn't think of anything. It was like a fragment of a sentence. It was like, there she was. That was basically the thing. And when you imagine it like a movie, it was like in slow motion. So they're outside, right? And she's with the princess, and he pulls her aside and is like, where's the captain's guard? Which is Kale, by the way, if you haven't been listening to me. And he's like, secret with the princess is weird. Like, why are you with her? You know, and there's like so much tension between these two characters, but it's kind of like playful in some way when they proudly talk, but that's besides the point. In chapter 18, Selena is watching Dorian and the princess spar. Selena is watching Prince Dorian and the princess sparring with like swords, right? And out of nowhere, she's like, I kind of want to kiss him. The quote from the book that I have is, she sort of wanted to kiss him while she was watching the prince and the princess sparring. Okay, and then Kale comes up and he's like pissed. Like, he's pissed. And it totally ruins the happy vibe that Selena was having, you know? And he's like, the test is tomorrow. You shouldn't be here. You should be resting. She's like, I'm so freaking out of shape. Shouldn't you be happy that I'm even out of my room? And we know, because she's been vomiting every time. Unless there's like a different reason for that, but that's what she's saying. So, and then Selena, she kind of has this like superiority personality kind of, but sometimes I doubt that, because I don't think she thinks she's better than anyone. She just knows that she's better, because I think she's just created this type of facade that she's like this evil assassin. She's like really powerful. She's an assassin, yes, but I think she only kills people who deserves it, like as I've said before. So far there hasn't been any red flags, and obviously she never follows through with these plans, because then poor old Kale would have been dead. Moving on, so she basically is accusing everyone that they're afraid of her and that stuff, right? Then she literally snaps at Kale. She's like, my body is not in shape. I don't like holding back my real identity. I like being me. I don't like the guards. And most of all, I do not like you. She's like, I hate you. She's like, I hate you. She's like a freaking hate worm from Human Resources. And that was basically the gist of it. And my man basically waited until she was done. And then she leaves. And this is the end of part 1. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen next. I'm assuming that there's gonna be more dead bodies found, and I think now Dorian and Selena are gonna have a lot more alone time together, and then Selena is gonna be like, I love Kale. And her and Kale are gonna have a kind of relationship thing, but I feel like that's gonna fall out in the second book, because there's no freaking way that I believe that Selena and Kale are gonna end up together. Like, that doesn't happen. There's no first love is last love in these types of books, so I'm just mentally preparing myself for that now, so I don't end up crying like how I did in freaking ACOTAR, because like, when I read ACOTAR, I was literally in love with Tamlin, and then I read A Court of Mist and Fury. Yeah, that's the second book, I think. I was literally so angry, but then I freaking fell in love with Raishin as well. I was like, okay, the first love is not the last love ever. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my lovely voice and our intimate talk together about this. And now I'm gonna finish my protein shake and freaking continue my night after releasing all of this onto you. Well, bye! I'll see you in my next video. Hopefully it's gonna be part 2. because I want to get this book out really quickly. The next book, I'm gonna say the next book is gonna be Tommy by Junji Ito. Yeah, I'm starting to read manga. And Tommy, I've been wanting to read it for such a long time, and I'm almost finished it, and I'm also almost finished the book review notes as well. So hope you guys will like that. But anyway, bye.